Bitches, it's me again, and today I'm gonna do a really in-depth everyday makeup tutorial because it's my most commented thing on every single video I make. So I start with completely clean skin. I don't like to put any moisturizer on or anything before I do this step because it will make it like lift and not stick as good. So I just use the Refi brow gel and I comb them up and to the side basically. And I really like to load a lot of product on there so it stays flat stuff. And I tried to use the Got2b it's not for brows, just the glue, and the brow powder doesn't lay as smooth. Then once I got them in the direction I want to lay, I take the other side. This is like the best part of the entire product, and I just push them into the same shape I was putting them into. And just take your time, get them nice and smooth. I like my brows like literally flat to my face. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's mine. Then I'm using eyeshadow. I'm using this lash line shade from the Natasha Denona palette because I don't have a brow powder that's my color right now. And I just start underlining them, kind of just following the shape I have. I used to have like really block brows, and sometimes I still do, but try not to go too heavy-handed with this. And then once I have that line, I just take the shadow and I blend it up a little bit. I don't go all the way through my brow because I want this to stay kind of feathery. So I just make the bottom full. And then when I get to the front of my brow, I just take the brush like vertical and draw strokes. I try not to go too ham, but again, I have a heavy hand. The before, the after. Then I take a flat brush. This one's from the Makeup by Ariel collection, and my favorite concealer, the Natasha Denona High Glam, and I just underline the line. Nothing too crazy here. You've seen this probably a million times, so not gonna spend too long on that. I also kind of drag it out here because I like my eyeshadow out here so I can make like a little wing shape at the end. And then I just blend my concealer down to my lash line and set it with powder. I'm using the One Size Translucent. And I also like to take a little bit and set my brow because those get shiny, and I'm not a fan of how that looks. I'm a MAC queen through and through. Now for eyes, I recently have been obsessed with the Major Dimension 3 palette from Patrick Tall. It's literally the best eyeshadow palette ever. And I just start with the white shade, and I take it on like a flat brush like this, something I can really get into the inner half of my eye. Tap it off because there's kind of a lot of fallout with this, as you can see. And then I just start tapping it on this portion of my eye just to lift them. I like this is like the most flattering look on my eye shape, I think. So I used to go in with my transition shade, if you will, first, but it always gets really messy and I can never get this part clean. So I started doing this part first and it looks so much better. Wow, on camera, it looks really bright. Then I take a little blending brush, and this shade over here, I love cool tone browns, cool tone colors. It's the most flattering on my color eyes. And then I start from I don't really know what you call this, the outer edge of my eye, and I just start slowly blending it up. And then I also blend it into this portion of my eye, trying to make sure I don't get into that white shade too much because I don't want to make it look muddy and weird. Always make sure to blend it out here so when I cut it, the eyeshadow doesn't just stop in this shape. Some people like that and it's flattering on them, but I like a really winged out dramatic eyeshadow because duh. The reason I set my eyeshadow instead of just leaving it wet is I find that it mixes with my concealer and goes a lot more cool toned. And I love cool tone, but I don't want it to look necessarily gray. Sometimes I do, but today that's not the vibe. Okay, so sometimes I'll just leave it like this and add my wing and it's really pretty, but I'm gonna show y'all the full glam routine. So I'm going in with the next shade over and I'm putting that kind of in the same spots. I'm just focusing it more towards my lash line, and I'm using like a little, I don't know what you would call this brush, and I keep this shade really close to my crease. I don't want it to go up and give like smoky eye, so make sure you're not blending it up too high. Then I just go back in with the original shade and I just kind of blend those two together, making sure there's not any harsh lines anywhere, but you can already see the shape I'm going for. And then I go back in with that white shade and just kind of reinforce the color because it gets a little messy. And I lightly blend it into the darker part out here so it's not a harsh line. And I also take a teeny bit and put it above my brow bone just to like lift that back up a little bit because it gets really messy. You can see the lift it gives. Now on to my favorite part, the part that transforms my whole eye. I do a little wing. It's not that little, but I use the Tom Ford eyeliner, and I like my eyeliner to go more outward, I should say, than up. I feel like up just looks unnatural. So I just kind of like start from the bottom, line it up with how my eye goes, and do a little line, and then I connect it. Oh, this is so hard showing you. And I only do a half wing, so I only bring the line to right about where it meets the white, and then you just fill that baby girl in. I've been doing this since I was 16, so it's easy for me, but this takes practice. And then I also just fill in this part right here because I feel like my lash extension's in there, and it just pulls it together some more. Now this is my favorite part. I just take some micellar water and a cotton pad and I fold it in half, and I just wipe away all the excess around the eyeliner because I don't want it to mix with my foundation or anything. And this is good if you like kind of mess up the edge because you can clean it and sharpen it. And I also go above the top of my brow because some of the brow gel gets on my skin and it looks weird with the foundation. The last part I'm going to show you on this part is the skin prep because the skin itself is just a whole nother ballgame. So I use the Glow Recipe Watermelon Toner. I don't always use this, but my skin has just been not thriving recently, so it kind of helps. Then I use the Inky List Hyaluronic Acid Serum. I kind of want the Glow Recipe one, but it's $42, and this is like 10 or 11, and I feel like it's just as good. And the last two things I'm going to use is the Dark Spot Serum, because you can see all my acne scars. And then the Plump Plump Cream. I highly recommend this. I love this for before makeup. And I make sure to take this down my neck because I blend my foundation to my neck and I want it to all look the same. But the goal here is just to be glowy because I have really dry skin and use a lot of powders. So I have to have the good skin prep underneath. But go to part 2 for the rest.